Hey, Gator Nation, welcome back to a brand new episode of the Respect Our Decision podcast. Guys, as always, I am your boy Hirsch. With me, CJ the Man McCann,
What's up, guys?
and the hype man Wes.
What's good, Gator Nation?
Gator Nation, fall camp has arrived. We have made it, guys. We have some semblance of football in the air. We got throwing on air videos live on the Twitter machine. Oh my God, man. The lies have begun to flow. I saw Elijah Badger catch a pass in practice today. Wes is ready to go for 12-0 on his prediction sheet. Tune in to our scheduled prediction show. Wes will no doubt have us going 12-0 on the season if everybody stays healthy. All right, guys, but before we get to anything else, if you're new to the channel or if you have held off on doing so, man, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel while you are here. It helps us a great deal, man, and like that video. I can't stress that enough. If you're here, you're listening to this in any way, shape, or form, guys, hit that like button for us. That's all we ask. It helps us a tremendous deal. And if you're wanting to check us out on the podcast world, we're available wherever you get your podcasts from, as always. And guys, before we get to anything else, as always, if you are able, if it is within your realm of possibilities, check out our friends, Florida Victorious at floridavictorious.com. Use our code decision, save 20% off of your first month. Help Gator athletes, guys. Help them with the recruiting efforts that we got going on. We got some recruiting to talk about here first at the top of the show. And before we get to that, guys, if you are ever able and you want to support us as creators so we can help try to grow this show, check out our Patreon at Respect Our Decision, guys, on Patreon. It's linked on our Twitter page. I'll make sure it's linked on our Facebook. That helps us, guys, just to cover the cost of making this show for y'all. And we appreciate everybody that has supported since day one and everybody that is just now tuning in for the first time. But before we get going, guys, leave in the comments below what player you are watching the closest in fall camp. What particular player do you got your eyes on that you want to see what they're bringing to the table for this upcoming season? A lot of guys out there already generating a lot of fan excitement today. We were talking about some before we came on the air. We're going to talk about some more later. But first, let's get to some recruiting, man. We had a commitment like an hour before we came on the air. That very rarely happens for us. So content is always king in this podcast world, guys. And we got us a commitment, like I said, 2026 safety. I know 2026 isn't exactly lighting any fires on some of y'all, but a lot of y'all get excited about every commit, and there's something to be said about that. So Devin Jackson, safety out of Orlando, 6'1". Currently ranked on the Own 3 machine at 323. He's about the same, somewhere in the same vicinity on 247. So a guy that's, he's in that 4-star range. He's above that 350 plateau. Florida kid, Central Florida kid, out of First Academy in Orlando. So always good to keep a Florida kid home. Add to the secondary. Wes, I know, are you always glad to add safeties in that secondary, correct?
Yeah, I've been piggybacking on what CJ said a couple months that enlightened me about the safety room. Even though this is a 2026 kid, as you mentioned, he is a kid that is from the state of Florida. He is a top 300-ish kid. He's right at the borderline there. So you want to continue to add high caliber guys there. And this sounds like a kid that may be in between staffs if something unfortunate happens, because he doesn't have to commit now. I mean, as you allude to, this is a 26 kid, so this is a kid that, in my eyes, and you guys can chime in later on when you speak about it, that probably loves the University of Florida. He's a kid that probably grew up a Florida fan. I haven't read anything to that point, but just seeing that he committed in 2026, and I think you informed me earlier when we were chatting about it that he went to a bunch of the home games last year, if not all of them.
Every home game last year.
Every home game last year. So that should tell you something. This is a kid that loves the University of Florida, wants to be a part of this class, wants to be a part of this school, and probably won't waver if something happens that I don't foresee happening, because I think we're going to have a successful season. But I love the addition. Can't have enough guys on that back end. That's somewhere we struggle, where we've been getting guys in and out of the portal to go with the young guys, Thornton and Castell, the last couple of years. So I love this pickup, and happy for it.
CJ, any other thoughts on Devin?
No, just hey, what about the 26 class? It looks like it's shaping up better than our current class right now. We've got a lot of kids that are jumping on board kind of early. It's kind of weird to see them having so much faith in the staff that apparently the 25 class isn't having. So I don't know what they're seeing there. But no, great to get him in here. We talked about the need in this portal era to really recruit home state kids that kind of grew up fans of the program. The way there's a little more draw to stay if things get kind of tough. He's not super high ranked, but he's got 2 more years of high school football to play. That could change. We've talked about taking guys that rise up rankings, especially in the secondary. Those guys. It's really easy for those guys to start to make a name in high school football, because if you're talking about high school football teams, nobody gets more burned than defensive backs on those squads. So the kid's going to have a lot of game film by the end of it. He's going to play good competition, and he's going to be right down the road, so we can keep an eye on him. So I think that's going to be good for us. I think that we will see him probably get back into closer in the 200s, maybe even the top 150 before it's all said and done. He's got a couple years to make up some ground, so I wouldn't freak out about rankings and all that stuff yet. But the kid seems like a good player. He's got some good offers, so. No, it's a good go ahead and get him into class. We've seen Billy and the staff do a lot of work like that with getting kids to the following year committed early to kind of get them ingrained in what's going on and to help them kind of jumpstart some recruiting there. They've been doing that since they got here, so not bucking that trend. So I'll take it. We talk about all the time not wanting to get the safety room back in the condition it was in last season, where you had a bunch of true freshmen that you were leaning on, only a couple of guys who had been here, and the couple of guys that you had weren't super talented. So to look out for that safety room for years ahead, I think is a good strategy for Florida to kind of keep that mindset, so you don't end up with guys like Castell and those guys who maybe weren't completely ready to play yet, having to play because you didn't have any other options.
Yeah, you talked about that we're getting a good jump on the 26th season, and I think that's a real attribute to the two commits that we got right off the rip there that are leading the charge there, both on offense and defense. I think you got your class leaders for both sides of the ball as your first two commitments in Griffin and Jalen Waters. I think both of those young men are going to be the verbal recruiting leaders on each side of the ball and are drawing kids in and saying, we're going to build something, man. This is going to be a good class. Go ahead and jump on and be part of it. And that might not be the last 26 kid we get this week. But to that point, this same kid that we're about to talk about might not stay in the 26 class. So in that being Demetrius Samuel Jr., who is at the Grill in the Ville this weekend. He is a 6-foot safety from Heritage High School in Palm Bay, currently ranked in the 2026 class rankings as the number 99 overall prospect in the country. He wasn't off campus yet. He may not have actually been off campus yet. And he received a couple of predictions to flip his commitment from currently committed to Syracuse to UF. And there have been some rumblings out there on the message board worlds and on Twitter. And, there's a lot of people talking that he may be talking about reclassifying to the 25 class. And that, in light of losing Hayward, the safety that committed to Tennessee this week, that we were at one point favored highly for, he committed to Tennessee over us, South Carolina and Georgia. that would be a nice replacement for losing Hayward. CJ, how do you feel about that? About this young man possibly reclassifying and joining the 25 class?
Yeah, I mean, here's another kid we're talking about. Florida kids with really kind of a stake in the game. He's Marcus May's cousin, which is
I forgot about
great
that.
for us. It
Yes.
was just great for us. You talk about a legendary safety here, a guy that played a lot of ball at a high level for University of Florida. The kid is from here. He's from Florida, playing in Florida. Syracuse might sound really good at one point, but when you start to really break that down, you got to go all the way to New York to play football, and that's a long way. I mean, and I know they play in the Carrier Dome up there or whatever they're calling it now, and maybe you get to kind of beat some of the weather, but you still have a lot of games up in that north climate that these kids just aren't used to playing in. You got kids that have never seen snow, so to kind of shift to go up there to New York, it's kind of hard for you to talk yourself out of that. It's not like a we've known and generally in our experience, if your name isn't Ohio State, generally kids from the South aren't going to go up there and play for you. Um, so that's working in our favor. Again, a kid who obviously at some point has been a Florida Gator fan, if he's not already. You get a kid like that in, like I was just saying, you get a kid who cares about Florida, who wants to play here, and it makes it easier to kind of convince them to stay once trouble arises and maybe they're not playing as much. And that transfer portal looms now, where it's like, I don't really, I'm not homesick. I'm not missing family because they're right here. And that makes it easier for them. And I think that can't go understated. I think we kind of I think we kind of undervalued how important proximity to home is for a lot of these kids in this transfer portal era, because we went from saying, trying to, well, we're not really worried about recruiting kids out of the state. I think all the kids in Florida are better than anywhere else. And then those kids didn't stay here, or they transferred out, or they decommitted, and now we're back to again we need kids from Florida, as opposed to all these kids from out of state. Now you do need to still look out of state because every big program is going to do that. A lot of our better players have come from different areas. Childs is from the DMV up there, and then Lagway is from Texas. So you do need to keep that in mind, but you really need to get back to taking some of the talent that is in this area. Um, we had kind of a down year for production in Florida last year. There wasn't a lot of kids that were really, really high ranked. I think we're starting to see that kind of pick up. And I think you're going to see it pick up a little more as the next couple of seasons. So I think that it's going to be a little easier to take those kids now. So yeah, I think that we're in a good spot with him. Love to see him reclassify. That helps this class because we need the safety help bad. If you were able to add him and then Hanks and then Fitzgerald, you've added a bunch of kids that will beef up the secondary immediately and add some good quality depth. Kids that can learn, kids that are going to be talented right away, that can play some football immediately and not get back to the point where you really had a bare cupboard in your defensive back room. And that's not a great place to be because we watched it last year. We know what that looks like. We know what it looks like to not have the pieces there to compete on a weekly basis, aside from a couple of guys that are upperclassmen that weren't very good historically. One of those guys gets hurt, then you're really in a mess. But I think they're doing a good job of addressing that. I think Will Harris is doing a good job addressing that. I want to see Florida continue to do that. I want to see Florida get some more of those kids. Maybe you'll get some more of those kids in the portal too. But we really need as many defensive backs as we can get in the room with playing experience to go with some of these younger kids.
Wes, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, I just
From that breakdown, CJ provided a fantastic little breakdown there.
Yeah, it just goes back to what I was saying a couple weeks ago as far as the safety room. And to CJ's point, you don't want to have Thornton and Castell playing before time. So with him reclassify, I think it would be beneficial if he's the right age, the right mindset, the right build to come in next year. That way, Castell and Thornton would be juniors. I have you guys know I have high hopes, high ceilings for Castell, thinking he's a three-year and go guy. So if he's here next year, learning from those two guys, Thornton and Castell on the field in this new defense, and Thornton is the guy. Not Thornton, but Castell. Hopefully Thornton too. But if Castell is the guy that I think he is, and he's watching and learning, be able to learn under him, and maybe redshirting his freshman year, and then year 2 being able to come in and step in and compete for a starting job, and you would love that. So hopefully we can get him in. As far as a commitment, and if the reclassification goes well, then that's even better, because I feel like those two safeties, and maybe Thornton, maybe next year. I know we have Asa Turner and some guys coming in this year to compete for the other safety position, but I like both of those safeties, and I like for a guy to be able to come in and maybe sit and learn. Same way with DJ learning from Mertz this year, being able to learn from somebody that's in front of you, even though you may get your feet wet, play a couple possessions. Or whatnot, but to just learn from guys in front of you, and have that kind of mentor, somebody who's played a lot of ball, because this would be both, well, Thornton didn't play as much as Castell, but this would be Castell's 20-something game, this 24th game if he plays all 12 games this year. So he'll have a lot of reps up under his belt, a lot of football played, and that's a way not only learn from the coaches, but learn from a guy that's on the field in front of you. So I would love it. He could reclassify all I say, because I was disappointed with Hayward going to Tennessee, and I forgot the other guy, I believe he went to Miami, that I thought we were going to get as well. So big shout out to Harris. Stubbs, yeah.
And don't get me wrong on Stubbs. I don't think that one's quite over yet. I mean, we'll take that for what it is. Right now it's an L. It's absolutely an L. You beat Miami in that first game of the season. I think a lot of that changes real quick, but I mean that's a big if. You got to show. So obviously we have that news. Let's get to another piece of news. This one I got my thoughts on it, and I want to we'll kick it around real quick before we get to the practice. There's another guy that it looks like could be jumping in this class as well shortly. And I try to get his name here. Tavorius Brown. This young man is a defensive lineman in JUCO ranks. He goes to Hutchinson Community College. He's 6'7", 290. Huge kid. The downside is he's not ranked on any service. Now, we have sat on the show and we have praised the scouting of Napier's staff in many occasions. And I'm not saying if this young man joins the class, and right now it looks like it's close. I'm just not sure we're at a point where we can take these risks. Now, I know there's a possibility that at any time they're going to pass this rule and the scholarship limits are going to increase from 85 to 105. And Billy Napier talked a little bit about that in his press conference and all. My whole thing with this is if you look at the programs we're chasing, you don't see them taking this kind of guy. Now, I'm not trying to poo-poo on it for the sake of doing that. Like I said, the young man, and if he comes in, I want him to do the best he possibly can, and I want to eat all the crow in the world. But I personally have a thing right now about taking guys that are a gamble. Right now, we need proven football players at a high level to catch the teams that are in front of us. And I think everybody that's a Florida fan right now wants to catch the teams that are in front of us. You don't like seeing, I mean, obviously we know Georgia and Bama, but you don't want to see, I think we're tired of seeing Auburn recruit better than us. And Tennessee's recruiting better than us right now. You're looking every other day. The last 2 weeks, Auburn and Tennessee have been, they got a fire going, but they also have a great NIL system. And if you're taking a small class this year, which all signs indicate, and everybody, including Steve Wiltfong and anyone that's talked to anyone in the program, say you're talking about a 19 to 20 player class size as of today. I don't know if this is the kind of gamble you can take, but it's not my money to gamble with. Wes, what's your thought on this?
I hate it. Just to be frank with you, and to some of the points that you alluded to, I've always talked about how college football is turning to more of an NFL, and you have to be a CEO, you have to be a GM, so to speak. If you look at the Houston Texans and what CJ Stroud did last year,
Well, we lost our GM to UGA this week.
maybe that's why we take it. But when you look at what the Houston Texans did, they said, okay, we believe we have guys, so let's go all in on this rookie contract. And why am I bringing that up? If DJ Lagway looks like the guy, we're only gonna have DJ play full 12 games or more, hopefully more, a season. So you have 2 seasons with DJ Lagway, and that's it. Because if he's that guy that we all hope and pray he is for our for our sanity as creative football fans to bring us back, you're gonna have this guy for 2 years. And we talked about this past couple weeks. You have to go all in next year. Forget having this guy that you might have to develop. If we can't get the D tackles in this 25 recruiting class, fine. What it's not like the offensive line, defensive tackles you can get in the portal. You can get guys in the portal that will help this team next year. And if you're gonna have this small class and not get up, you understand a 3-star developmental guy, but a guy that's not ranked on any recruiting service, a guy that seems like a total project. And we have alluded to this. Scott, this staff does have good eyes. They have all these staff members, and they do. I'm not knocking them for that. But if this guy can't come in next year and help DJ and help us as fans and help the University of Florida compete to get into the 12-team playoff with that stud quarterback that we're going to have for the next 2 years, this is when you have to go all in. You have Griffin. I love how the plan is in my mind and hoping that everything falls right with Griffin in the 26 class, DJ for 2 years. All that stuff sounds good. The 26 class looking good to recruit. The 25 class this year, we're looking at this may be a little bit of makeshift class, but DJ is going to carry us on his back the next 2 years, and you have Griffin coming in. That's how I'm picturing it as far as big picture. But for the immediate, next year you have to go all in. And if we lose Jackson and I believe it's Lyons, the other D tackle, and we're not good there on depth, you got to get guys in the portal. You can't. This kid, even though he's a JUCO kid and he should be able to come in and play, he's a big kid. And he seems like he's going to be in the trenches and inside, as far as his numbers, as far as his size and his height. He's not a DN, he's a D tackle, and I know that's a place we've been hurting for years, since probably Bullard and those boys left, and Caleb Brantley and those guys. But this is, to me, you can't do it if you're taking 20 kids in this class and you say you're going to have to hit the portal for inside. That's not going to help this team next year, in my opinion. And next year, if Napier goes 75, which is to me the worst case scenario. Not the worst case scenario, but as far as him keeping his job, 75 will keep him his job. But that year, next year with DJ Lagway, you have to prove it's no 75. It's not 8-4. You have to be competing to be a top 12 team in the country, and this kid is not helping you be a top 12, as far as the rankings go to get in the playoffs. You have to be a top 12 school next year, and I don't think this kid is helping you do that. And that's what I mean by the big picture.
CJ?
I have a more simple approach to it. Kids like him and the kid from Grayson, that is also in the same kind of boat where we're looking at taking them and they're both unranked. Kids like that should only get preferred walk-on spots if you like them. And I'm sorry, that might seem harsh, but nobody else is giving scholarships to these kids. Nobody else on our level. It'd be one thing if we look at it like a couple of the other kids that we've recruited have gotten scholarship offers from other teams similar to us, South Carolina, Auburn, Alabama even. And we can say, okay, this kid's getting offers. These other kids are virtual unknowns to a lot of programs in the country. Billy Napier has done a good job at finding gems.
Can I break in on you real quick?
Go ahead.
Demetrius Samuel Jr. has just flipped his commitment from Syracuse to Florida.
Hey, look at us. Go Gators. All right. Breaking news. Awesome. Good for him. That's a big one. But back to what I was saying about our friend from Kansas at community college.
I'm so sorry. and will reclassify to the 25 class. Is
All right,
announced.
pop the bottles, baby. But awesome. That's some great news. But the thing, we've got a guy that really should just get a preferred walk-on spot. That's what I would offer him if you really believed in him. Let him know that there's a chance to absolutely get a scholarship at University of Florida, pending you progress like we want you to. In the days now of NIL and things like that, you can get him some NIL money to cover his expenses to help him out, but not give him a scholarship spot. That's kind of the way I look at it. Unless, I understand coaches, believing and trusting their gut and things like that. But like I said, give this kid a preferred walk on spot. And if he says no and somehow ends up somewhere else and he tears it up and he's an All-American somewhere else, then you just need to live with that. That's just one you have to swallow. You're gonna have to be okay with taking an L if that's the situation, because more times than not, that player isn't gonna pan out. It's just not. It doesn't work a lot of the time. If it did, everybody'd be doing it. But they're not. This is a long shot, and you don't have a lot of roster spots to play with. You don't have a lot of people in the class to play with. You really need to. I would rather them go get a 3-star defensive tackle from some small 2A school in Florida and take that guy than waste a spot, a scholarship on this kid. And I'm not trying to be mean, but that's just
It's the nature of the beast where we're at right now.
We are talking about a talent acquisition business, as Mr. Napier would say, and that's not. This just doesn't feel like that kind of move. This feels like coaches have a tendency. Every coach has a tendency to try to make a move to make themselves look like the smartest guy in the room, and that's just what this feels like. And I'm not on board with that. I would rather let this gentleman. Here's a preferred walk-on spot. We'd love to have you at Florida, but if you can't do it, we understand. We're just not going to give you a scholarship right now. I think that's more than fair.
Yeah, that and preface it by saying, hey, if we get the scholarship limit increased to 105, and it goes into effect at a certain time, we'll take care of you. You'll be one of the first guys that goes if you come in and prove yourself. But it goes back to my original point. You don't see the teams in front of us making decisions like this. And they have talent, an abundance of talent, where they could take a flyer on a guy maybe and say, look, we got 24 4 and 5 stars in this class. We're going to take a flyer on this because our scouting department and his tape looks really good. We need 20. If we're taking 20 kids, we need 24-star plus kids right now. It's just where we're at. You're playing catch up. I'd rather, like you said, if anything else, use it in the portal. I'd rather you go in the portal and find a guy that's played 2 years at a smaller school that has more, tape. But that's just me. Once again, it's not my money to gamble with. I don't make these decisions, and it's not my job on the line. All I can sit here is sit behind a microphone and share my opinion about it, and these guys share their opinion about it. And maybe there's a bigger plan that none of us know about. This is just how it's been presented so far. And we could be dead wrong. It could come out, the kid commits, and then they say, you know what? It is a preferred walk-on. That's what it's been the whole time. People were confused, or people got the wrong impression. I mean,
this kid could commit and shoot up the boards. I mean, but we've seen that happens. Maybe Florida was the first one to him, but that doesn't happen a lot. No. like that's not something that I would love for this kid to go play in an FCS program like Furman or somewhere like that. If he could get there, and perform okay, do well, do that job there, then come back and jump in the portal and then come to Florida. Something that would make me feel better than community college in I think Kansas is where this place is at. Where has he been? There's nothing. He just kind of popped up. Was he new to football? Did he go to community college and they say, hey, you're a big guy, you want to play football? And then he got in there and he could all of a sudden he could do it. Is that what happened? Because if otherwise, if he went to high school and he didn't pan out there, then he went to community college and he's put on some weight. Now they're looking at him and saying, oh, that's a guy. I don't know. I'm not confident in that. And I guess I should be, because Billy Napier has done a very good job at picking talented kids. This just doesn't feel this way. Again, even or you could say, what if he played in Germany like our German recruits, or England like our England recruit? Then I could feel a little better again, because he's not from this country.
Well, we just got our third commitment of the day, by the way. And you talked about the kid at Grayson High School, and we hadn't even got to him, and that's Joseph Mbachu.
Gesundheit.
Yeah. Who I believe is slotted as a defensive lineman as well, who's never played a game of football. Up until now, he has not played a single game of football that counts. I don't know what to tell you about this young man other than he played soccer, he played basketball. He's a very big young man. He's 6'6", 285.
He was a tight end. I would feel better.
He's from Cameroon, but he's at a fantastic football school at Grayson High School in Atlanta. Now, and CJ knows this as well, and a lot of our listeners that know the Atlanta area know. But once again, this is a kid who you're taking on potential.
Senior.
He's a senior, and he's never played football.
So he's a rising senior.
This year will be his first year of real football. And I'm sorry, I know, guys, and I'm sorry this has kind of gone all over the place, because these commitments both have happened in the span of the last 10 minutes. And, hey, kind of cool. But at the same point, we're talking about project guys.
You know what this is telling me? That we can't get a defensive tackle.
We've been there before.
This is what is screaming in between the lines, is that we are struggling, and we have seen our board, and we have seen the guys that we've tried to recruit, and there's no way we getting any defensive tackles in this class. That is screaming out loud for us taking these guys.
Go to the portal.
Exactly. I'm with you. That's what
I know you are. Yeah. I know you are.
Yeah,
I'm 100% with you.
Probably the first time I've actually been kind of frustrated.
Yeah. But it's spelled out.
A while. It's just not. I don't. Again, this kid could show up and play at Grayson this year and light it up. It could happen. This kid could just be a savant of football and never knew it, because he never had an opportunity to play it. But man, but if he does perform well, he's performing well at a great school, and then Billy Napier's proven right, because they're not playing any slouches at Grayson. That's not happening. So if he gets out there and he can perform well, that's awesome. You found a gem. You found a diamond in the rough. But we're not at a point as a program to take chances and throw Hail Marys on kids when we don't have the scholarships and we're not talented enough to do that yet. So it's still kind of just doesn't sit right. I wish, again, if he was a preferred walk-on, or he was the kid from an FCS school or D2 school or an Ivy League school, I could definitely take it and make it make sense. But this just doesn't make sense to me. I'm sorry.
I can't argue it, and I don't know how to make sense of it right now. Maybe in the coming days after we've published this podcast, new information will come out and clarify it all, and maybe we'll look foolish for these takes as of 7-12 on Wednesday night when these kids committed, and maybe these are knee-jerk reactions, and maybe we'll have to come on next week and say, all right, we got clarification, guys. Our takes were a little bit astrew,
And also, too, this isn't against the kids for wanting to come to
at
Florida.
all.
No,
if you gave me a scholarship
way.
to play at the University of Florida and I ain't never played football, that's like winning a lottery.
Yeah, absolutely. Take that. I want these kids to love Florida just as much as we love Florida. That's not even in the question. This got nothing to do with them, but it just, facts are facts. I mean, and facts don't care about your feelings. This is just the way it works. No other team is doing
facts over feelings.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't. I can't figure this one out. I just can't. Maybe it works out. It's not my job to figure it out, I guess. I'm just supposed to be a fan and shut up. So
no, we have to figure it out for our fans that listen to us. So we have to
I mean, and like I know some people will listen, guys, and I get it. If you're one of these people, please understand, we're not downing the kids in any way, shape, or form. God bless them for getting whatever they can get for the talents that God gave them. I am all for it. I don't ever hate on a kid for getting anything and everything he can from the talents that God gave him. I'm questioning my coaching staff and the decision that they're making to acquire kids that aren't a proven commodity when we are lacking behind teams that are acquiring better talent than us. And that's all it is. I want my team to get 4 and 5 stars with every commitment. And I get that every team has some 3 stars scattered in there too. And part of that in today's recruiting is because guess what? They cost less. So you get a few camp bodies and things like that to throw in, and some potential guys that are 3 stars. Georgia takes some 3 stars. Ladd McConkey was a 3-star. And then he turned out to be the best receiver they had for a few years.
Davis too, that big D tackle was.
Yeah, so. they take, those guys had played football before.
Jared Davis, one of our best linebackers that we had, was a 3-star from out of the state of Georgia.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah, Kyle Trask never played high school football.
3 stars make it.
I mean, it happens. It just doesn't happen a lot.
3 stars turn into great football players, but most of those kids have evaluated tape. And, this young man, Joseph Mbachu, has no evaluation whatsoever because he's never played ball. And maybe he worked out for the coaches and he's a workout warrior he's a guy you think, we can stash him away for 2-3 years. And he cares about an education just as much as he cares about playing football. And that very well may be true.
Random question. I don't mean that, surprise you guys with this question.
Pop it.
Who the D tackles next year after Lions Jackson is gone?
No, you lose 3.
Lions is still here next year, I'm pretty sure.
You lose Banks and Jackson.
Lions will still be here. Dez will probably still be here.
Burrow.
Burrow that you got last year. I'm drawing a blank.
What's the other gentleman that committed late?
You got some kids that have moved inside. Like they've moved Kelby inside.
You've seen Sapp play inside. I mean,
Sapp. I think Sapp's gone after this year, isn't he? Or maybe not. Wes caught me off guard with that, but it's not like it's a ton. But losing McClellan did not help us in that aspect whatsoever. And I know that I hate to pour salt in the wound of Wes over there.
Yeah, that really hurts my heart. Bad.
But all right, guys, let's move on from this because we're just kind of spinning our wheels now, and all we can hope is some of this works out in the shake. We get some answers. Maybe they feel like this 105 limit is going to go into place sooner than later. I don't know. I still feel like if you've got open spots, you need to take more talent. But it's not my program to run. And at the end of the day, my job is not on the line. So I hope he figures it out with what he's doing. Let's talk some spring practice. Spring practice. Jesus, I've done lost my complete mind after talking about that. Fall practice. A little more optimistic, guys. Obviously, we got our first practices of the day today. We had some nice throwing on the air. Some guys looked good out there. We specifically were talking before the show. Aiden Mizell looked really good. Elijah Badger's out there catching passes. Graham and DJ looked good throwing against nobody. I saw Aaron Childs look like a man-child out there on the field. Miles Graham was out there. Good to see Miles back at practice. Just a few of these kinds of things. Obviously, Billy Napier had his press conference yesterday, and a lot of the coaches talked. And the big question I want to ask you guys is, how do y'all feel about the twister mat for special teams? I
don't care if you got to draw. I don't care if you got to draw my damn picture. Just do it. If it works, it works. I'm kind of mad we weren't doing it sooner. I think that's my takeaway from it. I wish we had been doing it.
Guys, there's pictures of pro teams and UGA had one on their sideline, but I saw more people trying to be outraged yesterday over a special teams mat. Like how the hell has Florida gotten so bad they need a mat on the field? 50+% of the teams out there do this, guys. Quit being outraged about stuff that's not a big deal. If nobody had if Nick De La Torre had not put that out there and put that picture on Twitter, nobody would have known the difference.
If we get 11 guys on the field on special teams,
and they're not wearing the same number
because of this, then I'm all for it. I don't see the negative in this. God Almighty, we had to try something. I mean, we brought in a new guy to kind of give us advice about special teams. If this is what he thinks will work, then I'm down. We can't keep beating our head against the wall. At least we're trying something.
Nah, let's do the same thing over and over again, and then let people complain when there's 10 people on the field, or Jason Marshall and Trey out there at the same time. Let's do that, and then have people bitch and moan about that. Nah, like you said, they brought somebody in, and this is his way of coaching. And as far as the special teams to get that in order, that's what good coaches do. That's what you do. You develop something to have organization, have something organized to have that problem fixed. There's nothing wrong with it. And to Hershey's point, other schools do it. NFL teams do it. That's what you do to make sure you're accounted for and you have the right amount of people in the field. We see NFL players where there's when they're kicking a field goal, or even college, both where even high school, where there's a lineman or a tight end running in on an extra point or a field goal. That happens. So to kind of niche this in the bud, you do this. There's nothing wrong with it. And for the people who complain about it, they just complain about everything.
Everything. But I challenged these guys before we came on the air today to come up with one thing that they were looking to see out of the team for the first few weeks of fall practice. So, Wes, I'm gonna start with you, man. Obviously we know in the first couple of weeks you're not gonna see a ton, but what's something you're really kind of looking for out of this team?
I'm looking to see who emerges besides Shamar. We lost Bateman this past season, and he did a good job recruiting. And our linebackers played better than they had been playing. We saw how Bernie progressed, and we saw Shamar look good before he went down. So I want to see who's standing next to Shamar, who emerges, and see our defense and see if they are attacking style defense. I thought about this when you asked us to think about it. We went through the Muschamp years and we complained about offense. Then Mullen came and we were like, we can't stop anybody anymore. After I think the first year we were pretty decent, and then we just fell off a cliff. And throughout the time of when Muschamp was here and we kept complaining, where's our offense? We were used to Urban and Spurrier, but through all those years, we always had a not, if not great, elite defense, a pretty solid defense. And I remember you guys asking, we had on our part of the people question, which would we rather have, a top 10 offense or top 20 defense, that type of thing. and the defense will keep you in every game. And I want to see our defense of a unit look better, but I want to see especially linebacker and see how and who steps up besides Shamar. So that's my thing. I want to see the linebacker group and see how they come to fruition.
I couldn't argue that at all. I'm keeping a big focus on the linebackers myself because, like I said, I think Childs is going to be big time, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he develops. CJ.
There it goes. Okay. No, I think you know what's it's weird. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna say the wide receiver room because I want to see progress. I mean, we've got Badger in and you've got Eugene Wilson, but outside of that, you've got a bunch of guys, maybe Shamari DK, that need to progress, that need to grow. There was a catch that I watched a few minutes ago from Andy Jean where he reached out and just reached over a guy and then pulled the ball into him, and that was a heck of a catch. And I want to see more of that. I want to see guys going out there and really honing their craft as wide receivers, getting better about their routes. I want to make sure the routes are crisp. I want to make sure that they're in the right place at the right time because you look at a guy like Graham Mertz, he's really into being where you need to be. Throw to the route, not the receiver. And if the receivers can run really good routes, Graham's going to get the ball where it's supposed to go. He knows the playbook well enough. He understands, his assignments. He knows where the offense needs to go. So if the wide receivers can take a step forward and really give us threats outside of Eugene Wilson, it'll better the whole team because if your only real threat to score, your game breaker in that wide receiver room is Eugene Wilson, it's not hard for defenses to really just hone in on him. And then you've got nowhere else to throw the ball. I remember watching Georgia back in the day when they had AJ Green. Florida would play them and just basically say, okay, we're just going to put everybody on AJ because they didn't have anywhere else to throw the ball to. So if we got in that mode, we're really shooting ourselves in the foot. I expect Badger to play well, but I want to see more from Gene. I want to see more from Mizell. I want to see Burke step up. I know he's dealing with a little injury thing today. I don't think he practiced. So I want to see those guys take a step. I'd love to see Tang Hawkins get on the field and play some. I want to see Shimray DK kind of redeem himself from the spring game where it didn't look like he was, that all there. But, again, that's a spring game. He's just got here. So he's going to have to work on that. Khalil Jackson. I want to see Khalil Jackson be a more of a consistent threat out of the wide receiver room instead of 2 big catches a game. I think that's where we need to really focus in on. I want to see those guys just get better at doing the small stuff because I know they're phenomenal athletes. Every single one of them in that room, we've recruited phenomenal athletes, but they need to get good at procedural things like that.
Wide receiver was one of mine that if you didn't talk about, I was going to talk about, but I'm going to do the flip side of that coin, and mine is going to be the DB room as a whole. Man, we really, 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 really need the DB room to step up this year. Obviously, the biggest factor I want to see, can Devin Moore stay healthy? That's A1. I want to see if Jason Marshall is up to the challenge of making this his money year. It's contract season, baby. That's what this is for Jason Marshall. And you've seen many players in history step up when it was that time. Hey, this is my chance to make or break my draft stock. And Jason Marshall has a chance to really put up a good year of film and saying, look, I got a new coach in, changed some things around, changed my mentality, I became a better tackler, did better in coverage, system was better, all of that. Look how well I played. I think Jakeem Jackson, obviously we've gushed about Jakeem Jackson many times. I think he's going to play a lot of snaps. Just depends on how the rotation works out. Obviously, we've talked about the safeties. I know Wes has talked about the safeties a ton. Castell, obviously. I spoke many times on how I thought Castell hit the wall at the back half of the season last year. having played so many snaps, so many more snaps than you usually play in a high school season. And I thought he just looked fatigued by the end of the year. I think now, a year in the system, a better strength and conditioning program, I think you'll see Castell be just an absolute stud. Dijon Johnson is another guy that you keep hearing a lot about that looks like he might also take a big step this season. So, and then you still have Sharif Denson. You have Aaron Gates. You have a lot of guys. I mean, the secondary has a lot of talent in it. Maybe the most talented all-around position top to bottom that we have. It's just time for them to show it as a whole. Obviously, the wide receiver room and the DB room. I mean, those two, when they start going against each other in practice, should be a real show of who's who. Because you have a lot of talented receivers that, you know, some that are still trying to prove themselves. You've got Andy Jean trying to prove himself.
That's a great point.
Aiden Mizell right now trying to prove himself. These guys are trying to fight for playing time. Jackson saying, look, just because you brought in 2 transfers doesn't mean I'm ready to give it up. You know, you've got, and Marcus Burt, lots of receivers against lots of young DBs, and they're all trying to prove themselves as I can be on the field and contribute to this team in significant snaps. So I want to see how Will Harris has transformed this DB room from a coverage standpoint, from a tackle standpoint, a communication standpoint. It's I don't think you can ever say enough how bad we used to be in contention for DBU, and right now we're nowhere close.
Nope.
So hopefully this is the year we take a step of taking that title back, and that's what I would love to see out of this team this year. Guys, I guess we've pretty much done. I don't know if we're going to have any more commitments tonight or not. There's always a chance. But we can't just hang out and hope one drops. We got 3, in the span of about an hour and a half, and 2 while we were recording. So that's pretty awesome. Doesn't happen very often, but it's always cool when we do. Hope y'all enjoyed it and enjoyed our rants about these things. CJ, what do you got for the folks before we get out of here?
Thank you guys so much for supporting us as creators. Check out the YouTube, check out the Facebook, check out the Twitter machine, jump in the Facebook chat. You know, this is football month. We got football this month. We got football Thursday. We're on the way. High school football is about to start. We got it all starting up this month. It's time. We have finally made it. We have dragged through the spring and the summer. It is time. It is time for us to play some football. So we're right there, and everything's going to start heating up. So if you want to talk about football, there's no better place to do it than the Facebook chat with all those guys in there. They love to talk about football. We love to talk about football with you guys. It gives us a chance to interact with each other. So that's always really fun. Check out our friends at Alma Mater, all the cool stuff that they're dropping over there. And there's going to be more and more stuff as we get closer to the season, as we get in the middle of the season. All the NIL stuff, all that great stuff that they get, they produce over there. So use our link, check them out. Always keep in mind Florida Victorious. Use our code there, get you some percentages off to help out. You know, you're helping out Gator athletes. You're helping the University of Florida be better at whatever sports you choose to send your shekels to. So they're going to really appreciate that over there. So we're competing for high-ranked kids and maybe not kids in the middle of Kansas. But no, if you feel led to do that, then they will definitely help you guys out over there. They also, again, football's getting closer. So if you are a member of Florida Victorious, I know Jen and all those people over there do a great job at making sure that the members are taken care of, that have activities within the season to go see the athletes, tailgates, autograph signings, all kinds of stuff. So if you're a member of Florida Victorious, look out for that stuff too. You know, they're not just taking your money and leaving you in the dark. They do a lot for their members to keep you engaged. So keep that in mind when you start considering that. Also, make sure you're dropping a subscribe on us. We're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers before the season. We're tight. We're tight. We got 3 weeks. You guys got to get on it. You got to call your grandma.
Point.
Get your grandma to make a YouTube to just subscribe to us and bump up those numbers. You didn't have to watch it. Just give us the subscribe. maybe she will watch it. I don't know. I don't know your grandma. But if you can, guys, if you tell people, if anybody out there in your family that isn't watching, or your friends that love Florida athletics, love Florida football, or even college football, if they want to try to follow some of this stuff and get an insight on another team, we'd love to have them too. So just keep that in mind. And thank you guys so much. We really appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Wes, take us home.
Yes, give a shout out to Billy Napier for the content tonight, getting those kids to drop. He knew when our podcast, I know they listen, so they said let's throw those boys a bone and get those communities on there tonight, so those boys can have something to talk about. Appreciate you there, Billy. And as CJ said, tomorrow the Hall of Fame game. This is it. No more weeks. Well, not no more weeks, but football is every week from now on. I think everybody else plays next week as far as preseason for those who watch preseason football. So we here. Fall practice started today, and this is on and popping, baby. So let's get ready. This is the time of year I think that all of us who love football.
I do have one more thing I want to add because you're saying that. Take a minute, guys, and just pray for the safety of all these kids out there in camps. We don't want to see anybody injured for any team. And that's always my take on it each and every year as these kids go out and start football camps. And, my son's in football, practice.
And it's hot.
Yeah. So say a prayer for all these kids, man, that whoever you pray to or whatever you do, that keeps these kids safe, injury-free, and healthy until football season gets here.
Yeah, facts. My son starts his first year next Saturday, so I'm looking forward to that. Couldn't play last year. He had surgery for a hernia, but this is his first year. He's been playing baseball and basketball, but this is his first year in football, so I'm excited. And he is a Gator all sports. He watches everything, baseball, basketball, and football, so I love that for him. And as always, go Gators.
Go Gators, baby. Catch y'all next week.